Feedback is breakfast for champions, so the famous quote goes. Feedback is one of the most critical components of communication. And today I want to talk about how not to criticize, or rather another dimension of how you can give feedback to people, the type of criticism that people offer. There is no one sure way of giving feedback to other people, but let's talk about how we criticize, because when it comes to communication, it is one of the most significant processes. Feedback can either break someone or it can build someone up. Feedback can be positive or it can be negative. It can be constructive or it can be destructive. Depending on how you give someone the feedback, it can either build their self-esteem or it can break down their self-esteem. Now, I'm not saying that you don't have to be critical. I'm not saying that you don't have to give candid feedback. All I'm saying is I want us to look at it in a different light, which can be very supportive to the people that we are communicating to on a day-to-day. There are 4 types of feedback that we receive, or 4 types of feedback that we offer to others. The first type of feedback is negative and destructive. Under this type of feedback, if you are the person receiving this response, you are simply told no, and you are not presented with reasons as to why the response is no, right? It is considered destructive because you simply tell someone that their idea is bad and they do not learn anything from your feedback. And therefore, this is a type of feedback that I do not consider as progressive. The downside to this type of feedback is that you are simply presented with a negative response and no alternative idea is shared with you so that you can learn from this particular situation or process. The second type of feedback is negative but constructive. And this is a type of feedback that goes way back into the old days, where you are given the response and someone explains to you why you have received that type of a response. So in this case, you are presented with the answer no, but the person goes further and drills down why the response is no. Simply put, I will respond with a no and tell you why your idea is bad. Whether this type of response is progressive, I will leave that to you to decide. The third type of feedback is positive but destructive. And under this type of feedback, you will find that someone will first look at the good aspects of your idea only to distract it later on. This is the yes, but type of feedback. Yes, you can do this, but then the person gives you a lowdown of why this idea is not going to work. I do not think this is progressive feedback, but like I said, there is no sure way of giving feedback. And therefore, I'm just sharing some of my thoughts with regards to how you can criticize other people for what they're doing. This brings me to the 4th type of feedback, which is referred to as the appreciative response. For example, this is a type of feedback that will begin with the word yes and proceed to highlighting how that idea can be built upon, not deconstructing the idea. The appreciative response goes back to appreciative inquiry, which is a method attributed to an American, David Cooperrider. And basically, with this response, you sort of focus on the positive aspects of an idea, build on that, asking questions for comprehension, debating the good and the bad, and then zeroing down onto how this idea can be further developed. According to this practice, you want to focus on how you can build an idea as opposed to how you can thrash this idea away. You want to look at the positives of the idea. You want to focus more on how this idea can work as opposed to how this idea cannot work or why this idea will not work. Therefore, the next time you are giving feedback or the next time you are receiving feedback, look at it from this angle. Is it positive or is it negative? Is it constructive or is it destructive? What you want to do is to give positive and constructive feedback, focusing more on how things can work as opposed to why things will not work. Of course, I'm not saying you don't have to give crystal clear feedback. That is important. But just opening up our minds really is dependent on how you offer feedback. If it is negative and destructive, this stifles the process of communication, and this leads to people not opening up and not sharing their ideas when something is on the table. Why? Because they know that once they share their ideas, once they open up, their ideas will be deconstructed by your feedback. So the next time you're offering feedback, as opposed to asking, why is this idea bad? Ask yourself, how can we make this idea better? Remember, stop focusing on the other person by saying, you are wrong, I am right. You want to use the word we. How can we make this idea better? How can we be right as opposed to being wrong? I'll give a quick example before I conclude. Let's say you think that the person that you're communicating to is taking too much time to work on an assignment that you have given them, or someone is taking too much time to give you a response that you are expecting. As opposed to you telling the person that you are taking too much time, you are too slow, you may want to say, I am really worried about the pace at which we are moving. I am really worried about the time that it is taking for me to get a response from you. I'm worried about the time that it is taking for us to complete working on this project. How can we move faster? That's sort of the idea behind this theory. This is me simply reflecting on some of the ideas that I have been reading in the communication book, 44 Ideas for Better Conversations Every Day. I did talk about this book a couple of weeks ago. It has been put together by Mikhail Krogerus and Roman Shapula. Brilliant tips that they have really put together in a concise and easy to understand manner. I will see you in my next video. It's goodbye for now. Please do not forget to share your thoughts and your views in the comment section. I want to hear your experiences on how you give feedback or some of the personalities that you recognize from this video. Have a lovely week ahead. Ciao.